start of the conversation.
Okay, so let's start off with this. There's been quite a lot of controversy concerning our democracy, and you are one person that has been a strong critic of the kind of democracy that we practice. All the others can actually attribute that you're one very controversial person. Many other persons also feel that if you were the president, you may have been more authoritarian than some of the presidential candidates that we've had, or some of the presidents that we've had. But let me ask you something. How would you describe Nigeria's democracy?
I think we should resolve the issue of authoritarianism first, and for you to I don't want you to walk away with a preconceived wrong notion that I'm authoritarian.
Okay, you can play that.
After I have spent my entire adult life fighting for democracy, in what place would I have become authoritarian? When I fight for human rights, I fight against police abuse, I fight against high-handedness of government officials, and I've spent 33 years creating a particularly democratic culture in our country. So I don't know where that came from, and I think it was wrong to have portrayed me, as a starting point like that.
All right, I do apologize though, but that's what I'm reading out from what a lot of netizens can actually attribute you to. But let's start off with this. You have actually stated something about the kind of democratic practice that we operate. You've had issues with that on several forums. You've been able to express yourself. Can you right here tell us what kind of democracy are we operating?
We don't operate a democratic system. Democracy has been often been described as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whichever way you want to rearrange it. It is a people-centric system of government. That is to say, it's a government style in which the majority of people have their way and the minority have their say. So we don't have that in Nigeria. I have described it several times that after 1999, after the demise of the military in the country in 1999, Nigeria's democracy was hijacked by morons, and that's why I call it morontocracy.
So you would describe what we currently operate on as morontocracy?
That's right.
So in other words, most of the presidents that we've had have been, like you said, morons.
Complete, absolute morons. And they've gotten worse over time. And I've said it publicly, so even to the face of some of them, where possible.
All right. You do know, I think at one point in time when you led the hashtag Revolution Now, you were incarcerated. A couple of legal practitioners said that it was illegal for you to be detained by the DSS at the time, and others felt that it was a gag on your freedom of expression. But let me ask you though, do you think that at that point in time when you were in incarceration, that your perception about a couple of things that you said that hurt most of the government officials, according to them, they say you incited the public and what you committed was considered treasonable? What was the process for you back then?
It was my first time of being detained, but it's probably the longest and the most publicly known detention of that era under democratic governance, so-called. But it was something I expected. I completely was prepared for the worst when I started the organizing of Revolution Now in 2019 after the shambolic election in 2019. And I wish that people had listened to me. People had joined massively at that time. They did, because we actually had the protest take place in 26 states, but it was quickly overshadowed by my arrest and my prolonged incarceration and all the court drama that followed. So, but I have no regrets. It's my position till today. I still use that hashtag. If you go to my timeline, you see today. I still believe to tomorrow that Nigeria would not experience development of any kind, economic, democratic, cultural, social development without the revolution.
Well, your disdain for the political class is kind of obvious. And there's a couple of netizens have described you as a constant thorn on the flesh of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Recently, you granted an interview where you mentioned that the presidential flag bearer of the Labour Party in the 2023 election, you said he was fraudulently packaged for the 2023 election to deceive Nigerians. Why would you say that? What prompted you to make that expression?
Well, I have experienced several presidential elections in Nigeria since 1999. I participated in 2019 and 2023. And when you hear from me about something, just believe it, first and foremost. But I will go ahead and explain to you that he was presented to the Nigerian public as someone who has capacity, who's competent, who's honest, and who's capable of delivering on his, on promise to take Nigeria to the promised land. And those things are patently false. And I explained that part of it was that I've known him since 2007. I'm talking about Peter Obi now.
Yes. And
the second part of it is that for 8 years that he ran Anambra State, he ran it in, just like every other mediocre governor ran in Nigerian states. And when people ask me, why did I say that? They say, well, why are you not going to spend your vacation? When are you visiting Anambra? And then they'll keep short, because that's the sad part, And he was corrupt like every other governor of his era. He was an economic advisor to Goodluck Jonathan when Nigeria experienced an economic boom, and he ran the country aground, stole money. One of the ministers is still held up in London, Desiani, till today. That is some 9 years after they left power. So to now present such a person as some kind of a capable individual, it's just complete fraud. That is what I'm saying. And I would say it any day, anywhere.
You don't believe that Peter Obi embodies the ideal candidate to lead the country in a state, in a kind of democratic state that actually resonates with the ordinary Nigerian person? You don't believe so?
Of course, it's not true. I've explained to you, and none of these things I told you can be debunked.
What makes you different?
We can't find any school in Anambra for 8 years that even he himself can send his own children to. You can't find a hospital in Anambra State while he was there and after he left, where he himself can check himself in to treat himself for headache. You can't find any road in Anambra State that lasted beyond his 8 years in power. Let me shock you with something, right? If you look at some of the pictures his supporters put out, and when in 2010 or so, when he was governor of Anambra State, he was launching or commissioning public water works. The pictures are there, water pouring out of some contraption that they put together.
Meaning that you said that he did some of his projects are substandard.
Of course. But come back to it, 2024, the same Peter Obi is going around commissioning boreholes. Does that look like progress to you?
He's a philanthropic person. He's always been a philanthropic person. Others think that's a good deed.
Where was he philanthropic? It wasn't philanthropic. He was just doing it to fool people.
So you think he's not genuinely interested in leading the country in the right direction?
Before 2024, where was his philanthropy? You tell me. You just can't come out on radio and carelessly call somebody a philanthropist when he has never been a philanthropic person. It's just vote buying in disguise.
All right, let me ask you.
And that's why his supporters get upset, because there's a very thin veil on the face of the fraud. The moment you open it, they get so uncomfortable. They lose their mind and they start throwing tantrums, because that's how frauds are packaged.
All right. Do you see yourself? Let's come to you now.
There are packages that never have to win. Do you see
yourself as the ideal candidate to lead this country to a different sphere? How do you think that you are the ideal person clear of any fraudulent activities, clear of any deception that will take this country in the direction? Because you campaigned in 2023.
I've lived my life in the public domain for 33 years, 33 solid years. You can rarely find a politician, or anybody in Nigeria who has lived in the public. If you have any, when I mean any, if you have any contrary opinion about what I've presented in public, my capacity, my ability to deliver, you can say otherwise.
Critics will say you never see anything good with any administration. You always poke holes. Meanwhile, you're not perfect.
If there's anything good about Nigeria's past administrations, it is not me that will be telling you. Will be telling me. You understand? Show me the electricity that's there in the last 60 years. Show me what happened to the public water works. Show me what happened to public housing, schools, hospitals. Tell me what is good about Nigerian administration before now and now. We are all citizens. You might be on radio. I'm also in the media. If you have contrary opinion, you have contrary information about minimum wage, about corruption, about the quality of life, cost of living, inflation, economic development, that's been progressing in Nigeria since you and I were born. Show it to me, point it to me. Don't stay on radio and say, "Oh, you can." No,
some government
where we can
agents
gaslight ourselves.
Some government agents have alluded on some occasions when you come out to express yourself about your disdain with the policy making and the way the administration is. They have come out to say that you have never clamored for unification in the country. Rather, you've always tried to incite.
What is the meaning of unification?
Whereby?
What do you mean for unification? What does that mean? I don't understand.
Okay, unification, where rather than having to create make statements that incites, provoke, or that could create a sense of division, you rather don't put ahead measures or make statements that would create a form of cohesion amongst everyone.
You see, that's the kind of mentality that drives this very mediocre attitude towards governance. That is why in the midst of hunger and starvation, somebody will go and change the national anthem and want you to clap for them. And people are dying of hunger. Even the people that change the national anthem don't know how to sing it. What are you going to unify in a country that has fallen apart, where there's hunger, starvation, where there's oppression, when public infrastructure is falling apart? What is there to unify? What I advocate for is quality of life, and that is what can bring about integration and unification. It's not by advertising it on radio. It is not through jingles.
All right, Mr. Moyole Sowore, you said something that the system of government will operate is not democracy but moronocracy. What do you think about a regional system of government, or what is your ideal system of government?
It doesn't look. Let me tell you this, and this is important. It doesn't matter which system of government you practice, as long as morons are in charge, it's not going to work.
Don't you think
what makes governments work? Yes, what makes government work all over the world? It's quality people, quality of leadership, people with mission, vision, people who have capacity, people who have exposure, people with character. That's what makes government work. If you like, you can go and bring all the system of government around the world and place different systems in each 36 states of the federation. I'm sure you'll find up to 36 systems of government in the world. Go and bring one from Saudi Arabia and put in one state. Go and bring America and put in one state. Bring that of the Danish system, the Norwegian system, the Japanese system, the Chinese system. Bring all of them. It still won't work as long as you have this crop of persons that Nigerians sometimes foolishly clap for. I'm sorry to say, because I'm just like, I don't know how best to describe it. It's not going to work. So, and all this idea of saying, we want to go to regional government, it's diversionary. They know how to.
So if you say it's not going to work, what would you propose? What do you think would work? Because you say that most of the candidates are morons.
My proposal is for us to have quality people. But what attracts quality people is the ability of the people themselves to choose their own leaders without interference, without corruption, without dilution. That is what attracts quality people. What attracts quality people is quality projects. If there's electricity in Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians who are competent will not leave the country. The ones that left will come back. That is how India revived this economy. That's how China revived this economy. If you have quality education in place, health system in place, you have quality infrastructure, and people are not afraid of traveling on your highways because of kidnappers and armed robbers, then your country will work. But you cannot have this same crop of incompetent people running the country, and you said you're going to change it. It's just like, your house is leaking, and you refuse to fix the holes, but you keep buying new ceiling, under the roof all the time. So let's go and put another ceiling under it. Let's go and put a POP, and you have refused to fix the roof that is leaking. You're wasting your time.
All right. You've made a statement recently on the continuous incarceration of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. A lot of persons have attributed his incarceration with your own incarceration, with the incarceration of the Mieti Allah Katauhauri. Now, what would you describe about his continuous incarceration? What would you say about it?
My position is that he's been held hostage. It's even inappropriate to continue to refer to it as incarceration, because why? He was illegally abducted, kidnapped practically from Kenya. Even the Kenyan government said they don't have any records of how he left the country, and was sent to Nigeria. And what that process is known as internationally is extraordinary rendition, where you go and kidnap somebody and bring it. And the moment that happens, the moment the process of arrest is not acceptable, it's illegal, there's nothing that can stand on it. Nothing can stand on extraordinary rendition. That's what the rule says. So, but most importantly, why is he being treated like that? Because he's an Igbo man. And Nigeria never forgave the Igbos after the Civil War ended in 1970.
But the Igbos were the ones that bear the brunt of the Civil War. So why would Nigerians not forgive the Igbos for that?
Well, that's what we're saying, It's that they were defeated according to the Nigerian government. And after the defeat, there was no forgiveness, even though they'll be mounting, that there'll be reconstruction. It's just like how blacks are treated in America.
A couple of critics have said that his continuous incarceration is not the fault of the federal government, but some even southeastern leaders. In fact, they say it's a deliberate measure to...
Yeah, because I've been privy to conversations that says, let's let him go. And some southeasterners, I'll give you an example of Imo election. I was in Abuja when they were having conversation that they should release him before the election, and those guys in the APC in Imo said, no, if he comes out, he will not let them win in Imo. He will go against the APC, or he may not allow the election to happen, because of sit at home and all that. And as a result, their own complicity in that matter made it impossible for that conversation to continue. I'm not in any way suggesting that even those who were proposing his release before then meant, we're honest. I'm just telling you that there's a whole lot of conspiracy around his continued detention. And the fact that even whenever the judges say cannot be carried out, there are orders to let him have access to doctors, have access to proper legal representation and conversations before preparation. And the fact that these things are probably violated by the DSS, who is, even if the judge were to say take him to Kuje prison, they won't let him. Nnamdi Kanu is the only person who goes to court in Nigeria, and the whole city of Abuja is shut down. And it's claimed that he spent over 500 million naira each time he goes to court. But you have Boko Haram, commanders all over Nigeria who don't get treated that way. In fact, judges travel to Niger State to go and try Boko Haram leaders. And I suggested to them one day when I went to Abuja the last time I went to his court trial. Yeah, why don't you just arrange one of your kangaroo, just arrange a conference room at the DSS headquarters and get a kangaroo judge in there.
Get a kangaroo judge? Are you literally saying that the judges there are what? Rubber stamps?
Yeah, as far as Nnamdi Kanu is concerned, as far as my case was concerned, they were rubber stamps. In one of my cases, a judge went inside to take a decision. We were told later that she was waiting for a WhatsApp message from the Minister of Justice to determine whether to grant me bail or not, or the conditions for the bail. What haven't I seen in Nigeria?
So that means our judicial system is being hijacked by politicians?
Completely completely. Don't you see the number of judicial officers that were recently appointed, and who are the children, family, wives, and of judges and retired judges? It's a family affair.
The president slipped today while he was trying to board his parade vehicle. A couple of netizens have attributed the president with the president of the United States of America, Joe Biden. They say that possibly the president is so old or possibly sick, and that there are some things that they have not been able to let us know about the president's health. Don't you think that it was just a mere accident? It could happen to anybody?
It's not a mere accident, and that's what we were saying. So when I was running for office in 2019,
how do you know it's not a mere accident? You weren't personally
it's
there.
Not. Tinubu is sick, and there's nobody, no country in the world that is sick should allow another sick person to lead it. I have said it, and I'll repeat it here. I have no problem with old people or aging people or sick people, because these are natural occurrences. But the moment it's established that you're incapable of running a country like Buhari did and helped Nigeria to run something for 8 years, step out of the way and let people who at least have the capacity and the capability and the great health or good health to run the country. There's no need, sugarcoating it. There's no need to compare Biden with Tinubu. Difference being that, Biden's prognosis. You know that he's sick, and you know the nature and character of his own illness, his old age. But nobody knows that of Tinubu. Just use Nigeria.
The reason why they made that comparison is that Biden knows he's sick, and he's campaigning for the presidential elections that will be taking place in November 2024.
That's what I'm saying. America has in place institutions that can even run the country without the president. Nigeria don't. Nigeria's fate is tied to the president's office because it's a hopelessly unitarian system of government.
Wow.
So we cannot be making those comparisons. And at any rate, if America is doing something wrong, must Nigerians do it the same way?
Because that's the kind of democracy we're supposedly emulating.
And we're not doing. It's not as if we are doing what America is doing right. We are only interested in using America's wrong, to compare our own or to elevate our own wrongs. Well, how long are we going to do that for?
All right. Before I let you go, there's a situation that is on ground. I recall when you actually granted an interview recently, you said you were the one that exposed a lot of malfeasance from the supposed certificate that the president submitted to INEC and a couple of, supposed hidden secrets that your media was the one that exposed it. But at the time, nobody paid attention up until the 2023 elections. Do you still stand by some of the things you say? Or some of the things you said?
Look, in 2008, I approached Chicago, the United States District Court in Chicago, asking because I was aware that Tinubu had a drug trial in the US. And I went and I purchased it from their archives. They had moved it to the archives. Because it was a 1993 case. I purchased it for $76 and put it out on social media. It was on Sowore Reporter. So every other person that got it mostly from Sowore Reporters. That's as far back as 2008. I stand by it. And several other information regarding Tinubu's malfeasance and charlatanism were reported by Sowore Reporters way back. Even beyond Sowore Reporters, there are other media companies that have done it in Nigeria. So it wasn't a 2023 thing, and that was my issue. Like, people make it sound like it was 2023. But then, it's the same attitude you have now when it was exposed then, his supporters, because he also has some fanatical supporters who are, insulting us, who are assaulting me. In fact, I was threatening not to come to Nigeria because I published his drug trial history on Sowore Reporters in 2008. But I wasn't deterred. So, nobody has, I think I granted this interview since last week.
Yes.
Nobody has debunked it. Nobody has debunked it because they know it's true.
Let me ask you though, who do you think won the presidential elections in 2023? Because you have said that you don't believe that President Tinubu won. So to you, who won that elections?
What I said is I didn't, there was no election.
There was no election.
Was clear. They didn't hold an election in 2023.
So how did
It
the
was the
president
selection.
emerge?
So they selected Tinubu as their candidate.
Who
And
selected
president.
him as their candidate and made him a president?
Was a collaboration between INEC and whomever, the judiciary, the military, everybody that transparently participated in the process. You know them. And I've spoken about it.
So you're saying that these institutions that are meant to be neutral were compromised, and then
completely compromised.
All right, my colleague would like to ask you some questions, please.
Yes.
Thank you for your submission thus far, Mr. Sowore. My question would be on the Nigerian constitution. Let's take a look at it. This is one of the pillars that forms the basis of our democracy in this country. It's supposed to stand as our nation's guiding light. Well, some critics have argued that the constitution seems to be imbalanced and porous, as it allocates a lot of powers to the president to facilitate a very expensive administration. It also fails to delineate the functions and powers of the local government. When will our constitution reflect the kind of unity that Nigeria should have? Would you agree that the constitution in itself needs some reformation or amendment?
I don't agree. And listen to me. I don't agree that Nigeria has a constitution. What they call the constitution was a military decree that was promulgated in 1999. What I often also describe as an SOP, Song of Praises. So until a point that the people can promulgate a decree, a constitution into law, it is not regarded as a constitution. And I have asked that constitution be scrapped, and the Nigerians should enter into a constitutional making process that will take about a year or two. And then whatever comes out of there should be subjected to a referendum. And this constitution will include a lot of things, including, the right of Nigerians to secede if they want through a constitutional process. But people might want to leave, even though I believe in a united Nigeria and ultimately united Africa.
My next
it would
question.
Include. Yes.
Okay, my next question.
So I would scrap the constitution.
You would scrap it, and what would you implement if you would scrap it?
It will make another constitution. They are doing that
From
in Chile
scratch.
now. Yes.
On the 2023 elections, you spoke about how there was a collusion between INEC and certain individuals. Can we say, therefore, that there are forces, whether cabals or strongmen, impeding our nation's progress, holding the nation hostage, and actually preventing Nigeria from achieving her true potential?
Absolutely. You know them. And I usually mention their names, but I don't think you guys have the bandwidth or the time to talk about that now.
Okay, Mr. Sowore, let's look at electoral processes in Nigeria. Insecurity has been a lingering feature of elections in Nigeria. With every election, voter turnout decreases, with Nigerians becoming disillusioned by the recycling of political candidates. With the Electoral Act we practice in Nigeria, citizens are to go out and vote for their preferred candidate, but the emergence doesn't correlate with the preferred choice of the citizens. Would you say the electoral system we practice in Nigeria is just a facade? Or would you say it's for certain individuals to just attain power for themselves?
It's completely facade, and also designed specifically to give power to certain.
So you would say it's designed for just political elite?
Yes, it's designed for the political elite too. Not even every member of the elite, because the elite, the political elite in Nigeria is not even also a particularly well organized elite. This is prebendalism, kind of what we say in our local parlance, the dog eats dog kind of elite. So it's not the kind of elite you can be elevating by even calling them elites. That's why people often refer to them as cabals. Yes, you wanted to make a follow-up question.
All right, my second question to you is, in the United States, elections are conducted with the electoral body determining the winning candidates with minimal judicial intervention. Similarly, in India and even in South Africa, you barely hear experiences of the judiciary involving in the electoral processes. But since 1999, Nigeria's elections have been predominantly upheld by the court. Let's look at the last general election. There were reports about the 2020 election having the highest number of tribunal cases in history of Nigeria's democracy. Well, what would you say are the underlying factors responsible for the judicial overreach in our electoral process?
It's because the judiciary also uses as a business. Some of the judges become rich as members members of electoral tribunals because they collect huge amount of bribes from whomever the candidates are who have the capacity to buy the judges or buy the judgment. So, and I think it was former President Goodluck Jonathan who said that because he just came from South Africa. I think I read something he said.
Yes.
And he's in a better position to tell you because they know how to buy judges.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at the off-cycle elections as well. In November, we saw off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states, and there were witness reports of subversions of the electoral process, despite efforts by the INEC chairman, that's Mahmoud Yakubu, his administration to ensure transparency to citizens. What would you say are the underlying factors that contribute to persistent electoral irregularities on the part of INEC, the electoral body? And what measures would you say can be implemented to effectively address and mitigate these irregularities?
You know, one of the things that INEC is doing is claiming to be conducting election where they're not conducting election. The countries you mentioned, India, Brazil, South Africa, you see the way they conduct their elections. And when you talk about transparency, you can tell that they're very transparent because if you go to the front of the Electoral Commission in South Africa, they have giant billboards there that is showing as the election results are coming in. What I want to tell you is that they have adopted electronic voting, which is different from electronic processes. Mm-hmm. So, and INEC is just also another fraudulent platform. You know. INEC wants to create identity cards for contractual purposes. INEC wants to contract out who counts and all that. Under a new Nigeria that we are proposing, INEC will have no business creating voters cards. We'll be using identity cards that are already well known, either your international passport or your driver's licenses, or even your bank card, anything that can positively identify you.
All right.
If one is not enough,
I want to come in here. Solomon Dalong said something that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is being hijacked by certain cabals. Do you think that if an individual or a candidate actually has a good intention to rule this country, when they get to Aso Rock, when they get on that seat, that there are some oligarchs or certain persons who feel the country belongs to them and they begin to make decisions? The president or whoever is the president is just a representative, while those who are making the decisions are really behind there.
You know, this foolish excuse has become
foolish excuse. You don't think it is true?
It's as old as Nigeria. You know, somebody is always coming out to excuse the person who said vote for me and take responsibility for everything. So when it was Babangida, it was Cabal in the military. Abacha, it was Cabal in the military. Obasanjo, it was Cabal in the PDP. Yaradua, it was his wife. We're always looking for somebody to blame because we are not serious. That's why I say it's foolish.
When you say we are not serious, you generalize.
No. Because if someone is voted for as president of Nigeria, why should he come back? Why should anybody come and excuse him and say, "Oh, somebody hijacked power from him"? You know, did he come and tell you that they hijacked power from him? I'm just telling you that this is part of how they just distract people and present foolish excuses, and I mean it. It's foolish to keep for anybody.
Mr. Amoyele,
for a sensible person to say that the cabal has hijacked power from.
On May 29, when the president...
And when it's over, when it's over, you discover that nobody hijacked power from them. They were just using that to...
Are you sure?
The public.
The case now of Godwin Emefiele, Boss Mustafa came out to say that signatures were made on behalf of the president without him knowing. These are persons working within the cabinet of the former president.
Look. Because that is what Buhari has always been, a deceptive character. You know, has Buhari told you that Emefiele hijacked power from him? No. Is Buhari not still alive? It is the excuse. You just present excuses that, somebody will go to court and say, they asked him to design it this way, he didn't design it that way. Who approved the change of the currency? It's not Buhari. Why did he do it? For political reasons. So after having done that, and somebody then messes it up, do you blame the person who messed it up or the guy who said go and do it? And is it the fault if you want to build a house and you give it to and then they show you a design, and somebody comes back and build a house that is not that design. The question I will ask you is that where were you when they were building a house that you didn't know? And if the design is not what you want, you tell them this is not the house I ordered for. If you ordered even for shoes and it's not your size, not you returning back. I mean, why should we keep excusing incompetence by saying, somebody hijacked power from him. Somebody did this. Somebody did that. And then you don't hold the real person,
on May 29 last year, when the
inaction.
president said fuel subsidy is gone, there was a lot that actually transpired after then. Later on, when the hardship became worse, the president addressed the nation and he said there was a reason for removing fuel subsidy because the ordinary Nigerians that were meant to benefit from it were not benefiting. He said it is the elite of the elite that were benefiting from fuel subsidy. Nigerians asked the president question, who are this elite of the elite? Why can't you do something about it? Which brings me back to my question. These supposed cabals, could it be that they're looking for means through which they could handcuff them, possibly because they're so powerful, or they could ruin the president for whatever reason or the other?
There's no powerful cabal anywhere. What these guys do is that they create an impression that there's a cabal somewhere.
So are you saying when the president made that statement about the fact that fuel subsidy is not benefiting the people but for the elite, that means he was being deceptive?
So when I said then, and I'm sure you heard me at that time, that they are not removing that fuel subsidy is still in operation. People said I was lying. Has it not come out now that they've already spent 3-point-something trillion naira on fuel subsidy since they came to power? They didn't remove any fuel subsidy because they can't afford to take the feeding bottle from themselves.
So why announce fuel subsidy is gone when in reality
do I work for the government? I don't work for the government. They're liars. They're deceivers. That's what we've been discussing since we came on your show.
All right.
And Mr. Alves, this is for you. Well, let's talk about the adaptation of welcome to the world.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you may have other things, or would you like to stay on for the conversation to continue?
No, I'm done. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moyuli Sowore. Sincerely do appreciate you.
All right, Mr. Alves, let's talk about Nigeria's adaptation to democracy. Democracy is something much talked about with so much vigor, but not yet attained. For so many years and half a century, Nigerians have been introduced to different system of government, talking about the parliamentary, the military, now the democratic system of government since 1999. And unfortunately, Nigerians have been continuously disappointed. Do you think Nigerians have gotten the understanding of democracy and the actual concept of the system of government?
Well, the understanding of democracy, thank you, Kela, is so simple that democracy is supposed to be domiciled with the people. If it is taken out of the people, it's no more democracy. Mm-hmm. So what we have had since 1999 to today, today is another celebration of democracy Day, is that the people have been ostracized out of the so-called democratic system of this nation, in quotes. Nigerians are not part of this democracy. If I have to recall the present debate that is going on now, the national minimum wage that is going on now, is it supposed to be that, a sitting government will be talking of minimum wage that cannot take Nigeria, a family of 5 or 2 within 2 weeks? With the present economy we have in Nigeria, or Nigerians that cannot move from one state to another without talking of how to go and do prayer and fasting in your respective church or your mosque before you travel, or Nigerians that go to the market and buy 4 seeds of tomato now 1,000 naira. So if all these ones are put into in parameter, you discover that the people have not been part of the democracy in Nigeria, because the function of the government is how to make the people feel the impact of the governors. But unfortunately, the people have been told, tighten your bet since 1999 to today. I don't even know whether we still have waste in Nigeria any longer. So
what measures would you say we need to strengthen the democratic participation and governance in the country?
The people must live up to their responsibilities. Part of it is what we are seeing today. We heard that there is some protest going on.
Yes.
Unfortunately, after today, everybody will go back only to start complaining. You don't complain. There is no government that will throw that at you, especially African government, the way you want it. You have to let them know that the shoe is pinching And you need issue a bigger size for you to be able to live appropriately. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka just a year plus. In Sri Lanka, that's a country. The people were on the street for months. After a while, those who were like, oh, it doesn't concern me, now discover that those that are on the street are seeking the benefit of everybody. They have to join. When they join, what happened? The president has to take a leave. The prime minister has to take a leave. We saw videos of people in presidential mansion sitting in the president's sitting room. Some were in the kitchen, some jumping into the swimming pool. You know, this is what the president... The people, I'm not saying you... They never shot a gun. They never came up with a cutlass. But they were on the street doing the same thing daily. That this is our own right. By the time you take the right of the people away from them in democracy, you are calling for anarchy. So we've never had it.
Mr. Alvis, you're saying that the people need to step up to their responsibilities and realize that democracy and governance actually lies in their hands. But in a nation such as Nigeria, what role does the common citizen can the common citizen actually play in the Nigerian democratic setting? Are we really able to hold our leaders accountable? It would seem that our democracy is a vessel for the empowerment, not of everyone, but to serve the interest of a privileged and elite few. Looking at our electoral system, right, it's been modified with every dispensation. INEC chairman said we'll see results in due time with IREV and BVAS last year, but that did not happen. What can the people actually do in this kind of setting such as this? When the people come out to protest, after one day or two, it's hijacks, there's violence and all of that. Can the people really, can they really contribute to Nigeria's democracy if there are these impediments?
The people's role are so numerous in democracy. That protest is just part of it. And that protest, there's no government that will sit down and, want the people to be on the street pulling down his government. If the government is not doing the bidding of the people have the right to... The INEC you made mention of, is Mahmoud Yakub not still the chairman of INEC? After all the atrocity that happened in 2023 general election, what are the people talking about? We are looking up to 2027 now. Let me tell you, we have not known our right as far as democracy is concerned. That's the reason why the government, come up with dummy and we swallow it. Until we are able to determine that we are supposed to, these people that are, how many of them? They're not up to 10,000 Nigeria that have holding the 200 and something million hostage. Yes, they're not up to. But these are the same people who who brings in the dummy to tell you tribalism, religion, and all of that.
Mr. Elvis, would you believe what Mr. Omoyele Sowore said, that we're operating in meritocracy? He literally also called the president a sick man. He also stated that all the presidential persons who have been our presidents, that is from at least 1999, that was in Nigeria, is operating a democracy, they're all morons. And then the questions are being asked to him. What have you done as an individual who is a presidential candidate? What roads have you built? What tanks have you been able to create? What institutions have you built since you started campaigning or since your activism started? What do you think about that?
For that, his language that the presidents are moron, my own view about that is that the president is just one person.
Okay.
It's the system that are not working. That's why everybody is looking onto the president. If the systems are working, like he said, in America, even if the president is out of power for 3 months, 3 years, the systems are there to actually check the regulation of the people.
Speaking about systems and talking about regulation of the people, would you say we need judicial reforms, judicial, constitutional, other kind of reforms in Nigeria?
It starts from all, both judiciary, both economy, whichever way you can think of it. There should be surgical reformation. Absolute surgical reformation. That is what we are talking about now. That is not just the changing of the national anthem. Changing of the national anthem. If you change the national anthem, okay. If Nigerians are in support of it, then you have to also be talking of the type of government that will favor this nation. Is it this same federalism that we just copy, that we are not copying and paste, that we are not executing as supposed to be, or are we going back to regional government? Give the people the opportunity to come up with a constitution that will be people's constitution, not a constitution that you keep on. Since 1999, we have been amending this 1999 constitution, and we have not gotten to where we are supposed to be, which means it's not working.
All right.
So if it's not working, why don't we call for a referendum and come up with a new constitution? Do you know the billions that is being spent?
Mr.
At the end of the day, it doesn't move the way the people want it.
Mr. Alvis, thank you so much for taking your time and being on the World News today. Today was a special edition. I thank you. I sincerely do apologize because Omoyele Showore's time was, it took up a bit time before the interview. I appreciate you coming in here.
Thank you,
And
Esther.
we also continue to hope to see you for speaking on behalf of the people.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Esther Wachuku.
And I am Kayla Abraham.
My name is Chioma Innocent. That is a wrap on the World News at all.
Thank you so much. And of course, in the evening, I and Chama will be here to give you a comprehensive news analysis. Do stay with us.